Hi guys, welcome back. Today we are making my mom's sweet and sour ribs. It is a family favorite. My nephews and my niece affectionately call it po po paiguat, which literally translates to grandma's ribs. It's really easy to make. All you need to do is just cut up the ribs, marinate them, and cook the ribs in the wok, and that's it. Now, before we get on to cooking the ribs, I want to talk a little bit about which ribs to use. I like using baby back ribs because the bones tend to be smaller and the meat around the bone in that area is a little bit more tender. But you can also use spare ribs too if you want. Another thing I want to note is that in a lot of Chinese rib recipes, the ribs tend to be very short, about an inch or maybe inch and a half wide. And if I go to an Asian supermarket, I oftentimes find these strips of ribs pre-cut into this size. And if they're not, I just ask the butcher behind the counter to cut them into smaller strips for me. Now, if I went to a grocery store like a Safeway or in Sacramento Nugget Market, these ribs are often sold in these larger pieces. So they're about 5 or 6 inches wide, maybe even wider. And that's perfect for putting on the grill, but it's not really right for this recipe. Now, if all you can find are those big pieces, then ask the butcher to cut them into smaller strips for you, about an inch to an inch and a half wide. All right, let's get to cooking. For this recipe, you'll need about 1¼ to 1½ pounds of ribs. The first thing I want to do when I prepare the ribs is remove the silver skin. This is something that my mom taught me.
啲磅排骨買翻嚟咧，佢要啲球嗰度咪一定啲咩嚟㗎？佢等薄咧，佢買啲啲肥嗰係得好出。佢要啲冇嘅，你佢冇唔衰，佢有要咩？
Silver skin is a thin layer of connective tissue that covers some cuts of meat or the underside of ribs. It doesn't break down or dissolve when you cook the ribs and can turn tough. That's why you want to remove it. Then cut the strips of ribs into small pieces by slicing the meat between the bones. Transfer all the pieces of ribs to a bowl. For the marinade, you'll need a few tablespoons of sugar. The sugar helps balance out the saltiness and acidity of the soy sauce and vinegar. Next, add some salt. If you want more flavor, you can also add some garlic powder. Then add cooking rice wine, soy sauce, and zhenjiang vinegar. Zhenjiang vinegar has a nice malty flavor. Pour the marinade over the ribs and mix everything together. Cover the ribs with a lid and refrigerate for at least 2 hours. You can also leave them in the fridge overnight. I like to stir the ribs halfway to ensure that the marinade coats all sides of the ribs evenly. Heat some oil in a wok over high heat. Using tongs, extract the ribs from the marinade and transfer them to the wok. Stir fry the ribs for about 1 minute. Then pour the marinade into the wok and cover the wok with a lid. Reduce the heat to medium and cook the ribs for 7 minutes. Uncover the ribs. You'll notice that there's still a lot of liquid inside the wok. Increase the heat and cook down the liquids until it's almost completely reduced. It'll take about a few minutes. Stir the ribs frequently to keep them from burning. The ribs are now done and ready to dish up. The batch of ribs I'm cooking here is particularly fatty. You can see the rendered fat left over on the bottom of the wok. I try to leave the fat inside the wok when I'm dishing up the ribs. Garnish the ribs with toasted sesame seeds and scallions if you like. My mom likes serving the ribs with pieces of pineapple, but that's optional.
Hello，簡單易做嘅甜酸排骨咧已經做好啦，加啲菠蘿落去咧係甜甜酸酸更加好食，又開胃。
Now for a taste. I really don't know how to eat these ribs gracefully. So the flavor of the ribs are really good. They have a little bit of sweet flavor, a little bit of tang, and some savory flavor too. It's so delicious. Okay guys, that's it. You can find the full recipe on my blog, which I linked to below. For more cooking videos, don't forget to subscribe to my channel. Until next time guys, bye!